Okay. So I quickly present my study recently. The title is on the development of brain simulator, and it is also the titles of our papers. Tony and I have composed in July for the ICTCI, and so I will try to give a short reviews of the brain-informatics, and we also mention about the current status of the brain simulators, and then we will talk about the approach and the architecture we have proposed of our brain simulators, and finally I have studied some papers talking about the modular models of the brain functions, and finally I will talk about the next step of my studies and focus. This is a relationship between the brain informatics and the other research fields. We can see three research fields. One is deep web intelligence, and it is what we have studied and what we have in the WECO lab. Yeah, right. So we tried use the web and network and the internet to model the human brain. This is our approach, and we also have to study the cognitive science and the neuroscience. The cognitive science is talking about the higher level functions of our human brain, like the behavioral learning and education, or the cognitive psychology. Yeah. And we also need to study the neuroscience that is talking about the lower level, or we can say the physical structure of the human brain. Now we can see that in the micro level, that is the macro level, that the human brain is composed of neurons. Yeah, and also we can see at the macro level could be a whole brain or different brain regions that connect to each other to form the different functions of the human brain.
I think we should. This is what we use for the brain-informatics course.
Yeah.
Probably we like to in the next paper we probably want to modify this paper. This diagram. Yeah. The brain, the neuroscience, that circle. That is replaced by the brain anatomy. Brain anatomy. That's a circle.
Okay.
And the cognitive science will be replaced by the cognitive or medical behavior. Cognitive behavior or medical phenomena.
Sorry, can teacher study your team?
So the lower right circle will be replaced by the brain anatomy. Yeah. And the lower left is replaced by the cognitive behavior and the medical phenomena of something or like that.
Okay.
The top one we better use IT and network technology. IT/network technologies. which will be more related to our research.
And more specific, I think. Okay, and then we, in the background of our paper, we have mentioned about the network analysis. So, because we try to model the human brain by the network approach, so we must have the lift analysis to the network. And also, I have mentioned about this diagram in my past presentation. So I briefly explain about this diagram. In human brain, we can analyze or we can record some behavior, no, not behavior, record some phenomena by the functional MRI, by the MRI or neural imaging techniques, or we can record the frequency, the brain wave by the EEG. So we can, if we have the neural image, we can then build a structural connectivity by this image, by the statics of this image. Also, we can build a functional connectivity or functional brain networks from the EEG, the statistical data, to build a functional connectivity. And finally, we can apply a threshold to this network and use the graph theoretical analysis to extract some features we are interested in. Yeah. To see some patterns and behaviors, the relationship between the cognitive patterns and the functions or the behaviors. And we also mentioned about the three basic brain networks in the human brain. From the elements, the Gerard element, he mentioned about that there are three basic type networks in the human brain. The one is the upper one is the thalamocortical motif. It is talking about the cortex and the interact between the cortex and the thalamus. So there are many reentry loops because when the feed-forward and the feedback signals, and they forms the many reentry loops. And if a human body receives the stimuli, and the signal will deliver to the thalamus, and the thalamus will as a gateway will transfer these signals to the correspond to some cortex region that responsible for these signals, and then the cortex will send back these signals to the other region or to the thalamus to do the further steps. And the second network is the polysynaptic loop. Polysynaptic loop. And this is talking about the cortex and the basal ganglia, the interaction between the cortex and the basal ganglia. And this basic network is responsible for the responsible for the motor actions and action selection. Yeah. And there are in the